One of these dramas was supposed to star Ewan McGregor, with Paul Greengrass directing, but by the time it got made, McGregor was too old for the role. Another had an actress lie about knowing how to ride a horse just to land the part, and one is packed with so many future stars, you won't believe they were all in the same show. These are the 16 best World War I period dramas ever made. The BBC adapted Birdsong in 2012 from Sebastian Faulk's best-selling novel. It's a two-part drama about Stephen and Isabel, two lovers pulled apart by World War I. Eddie Redmayne and Clemence Posey lead the cast, with Matthew Goode and Richard Madden in supporting roles. At one point, Ewan McGregor was set to star with Paul Greengrass directing, but by the time the project actually moved forward, McGregor had aged out of the role. The BBC aimed to make something poetic, something that captured the emotions of war like the old war poets did. Some even called it better than Spielberg's War Horse. Visually, it's stunning, and the romance is well told, but the build-up is slow, gorgeous to look at, but not always gripping. This 3-part miniseries aired on BBC Two in 2014 and covers the 5 weeks leading up to World War I. It starts with the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand and follows the political maneuvering that led to Britain declaring war on Germany. The cast includes Ian McDiarmid, Tim Pigott-Smith, and Outlander's Bill Patterson. Unlike most World War I dramas, 37 Days doesn't add fictional love stories or sentimental moments. It's all about the politics, the backroom deals, the cabinet meetings, and the secret conversations between diplomats. It's dense, but in a good way. The writing is sharp, and the dialogue makes sure you don't miss any of the historical nuances. The casting isn't flashy, but the performances are strong, and the whole thing feels like an inside look at history unfolding in real time. This Australian miniseries brings to light a side of World War I that rarely gets told: the experiences of nurses from the Australian and New Zealand Army Nursing Service. Based on Peter Rees's book, The Other Anzacs, and real diaries, letters, and photographs, the 6-episode series follows the women who served at Gallipoli and the Western Front. It's a well-made production with strong performances and historical detail, offering a different perspective on war. While it has its flaws, it's always refreshing to see stories of women on the front lines. If you're into Call the Midwife or Bomb Girls, this one's worth a look. Created by Sarah Phelps, The Crimson Field tells another lesser-known World War I story, life inside a tented field hospital on the French coast. A team of doctors, nurses, and volunteers work under relentless pressure, dealing with both the physical and emotional toll of war. The cast includes Game of Thrones' Una Chaplin, Sherlock's Rupert Graves, and Dr. Foster's Saran Jones, with some Downton Abbey regulars in the mix. The show is lavish, well-researched, and historically fascinating, but it struggled to find its tone. Not quite a Downton-style drama, but lacking the emotional intensity of other World War I series. The BBC never renewed it for a second season, which is a shame. There was plenty of story left to tell, but as a one-season war drama, it's still a solid watch. This Australian miniseries takes a different approach to the Gallipoli campaign. It tells the story through the eyes of 4 war correspondents. Instead of just showing the battles, it focuses on how journalists tried to report the truth, while the military did everything they could to censor them. The cast is stacked with Aussie stars like Sam Worthington and Rachel Griffiths, alongside British actors Hugh Dancy and Charles Dance. Every battle scene is shot from a different correspondent's perspective, which makes it feel more personal and intense. The show does a great job of balancing real history with sharp dialogue, making the characters feel distinct. Hugh Dancy's Bartlett, for example, is more rebellious, while Joel Jackson's Charles Bean is more straight-laced. But for all its strengths, the battle scenes do feel limited. It's clear the budget could only stretch so far. The second season of Downton Abbey drops its characters right into World War I. The war changes everything: social structures, personal lives, and the future of the estate itself. The cast, which was mostly unknown when the show launched, became household names. Jessica Brown Findlay, Lily James, and Dan Stevens all had major breakout moments here, and the emotional stakes are high. People die, relationships are tested, secrets get buried, and by the end of the season, things will not be the same. The season starts in 1916, right in the middle of the war, and carries through to the dawn of a new decade. By the final episode, it's impossible not to want more. This BBC miniseries covers the decline of 3 royal dynasties: the Habsburgs, Hohenzollerns, and Romanovs, from 1848 to 1918, leading up to World War I. Over 13 episodes, it blends history with court drama, with the final stretch focusing on the war itself. The cast is stacked with classic British TV actors, including Patrick Stewart, Michael Aldridge, Colin Baker, Michael Gough, Gemma Jones, and Michael Kitchen. Stewart's performance as Lennon stands out: calm, ruthless, and completely magnetic. It's not a fast-paced show. The storytelling is methodical, sometimes leaning more on narration than action. But if you liked I, Claudius, this is right up your alley. The depth, the performances, and the sheer scope of history it covers. They don't make shows like this anymore. Based on K.M. Payton's novels, Flambards is a coming-of-age drama set between 1909 and 1918, right as the world was on the brink of massive social change. It follows Christina Parsons, an orphan who gets shuffled between family members before ending up at Flambards, her uncle's estate in Essex. Christine McKenna, who plays Christina, wanted the role so badly she lied about knowing how to ride a horse. She got the part, took crash course riding lessons, and showed up to filming so sore she could barely walk. The series nails the Edwardian era, the shifting roles of women, the excitement of early aviation, and the looming shadow of World War I. The production values are top tier for the time, from the costumes to the historically accurate aircraft. This is a virtually perfect miniseries, quite possibly the best of its kind ever made. It's that good. Made to mark the 100th anniversary of the Gallipoli campaign, this 7-part Australian miniseries adapts Les Carleon's best-selling book. The story follows a 17-year-old boy who lies about his age so he can enlist alongside his brother and fight at Gallipoli. Cody Smith-McPhee plays Tolly, and the entire series pretty much rides on his performance. He pulls it off effortlessly. His face alone tells you everything: fear, determination, exhaustion, and that slow, crushing realization that war isn't what he thought it would be. This BBC miniseries takes inspiration from our war. The BAFTA-winning docuseries about British soldiers in Afghanistan. Instead of modern warfare, though, this one drops you right into the trenches of World War I. The 3 episodes are based on first-hand accounts from soldiers who lived it. Early on, people worried it would be too flashy, indie pop, odd camera angles, even Call of Duty-style visuals. But somehow it works. It takes a different approach from most World War I dramas, and even if not every risk pays off, it still delivers a powerful look at what these soldiers went through. Tom Stoppard adapted Parade's End from Ford Madox Ford's novels, and what came out of it might be one of the best things the BBC has ever produced. The story follows English aristocrat Christopher Tietjens, his manipulative wife Sylvia, and young suffragette Valentine Wanup, set against the backdrop of World War I and the social upheaval that came with it. Benedict Cumberbatch leads the cast alongside Rebecca Hall, Rupert Everett, Miranda Richardson, Anne-Marie Duff, Roger Allam, and Jack Huston. Parade's End is one of the finest things the BBC has ever made. The end result is a kind of higher-brow Downton Abbey, covering similar themes of class structure, entitlement, British resistance to change, and how the onset of World War I erased so much of that. This 5-part British-Polish miniseries aired in 2014 as part of the BBC's First World War centenary season. It follows 2 teenage boys, one British, one German, who ignore their parents' warnings and enlist, only to realize war isn't the adventure they expected. Patrick Gibson and Jack Lowden play the leads, and Lowden would later go on to star in Christopher Nolan's Dunkirk. The series avoids jingoism, focusing instead on the slow, crushing reality of war. What starts as youthful enthusiasm turns into something much darker, building to a heartbreaking finale. Some even compare its ending to Blackadder Goes Forth, one of the most devastating war drama conclusions on TV. Originally shown on ITV in 1983 and written by Troy Kennedy Martin, The Italian Job, this 12-part series dramatizes the fascinating life of Sidney Reilly, a Russian Jew who became one of the greatest spies ever to work for the British. His achievements included infiltrating the German general staff in 1917 and a near overthrow of the Bolsheviks in 1918. Reilly is played by Jurassic Park star Sam Neill, who is joined by Janan Crowley, Leo McKern, and Kenneth Cranham. Clearly, this is rich material, a plum pudding of daring-do and geopolitics. It's a mix of political drama and high-stakes adventure, packed with shifting alliances and Cold War-style tension decades before the Cold War even began. A 15-year-old boy from London gets sent to live with relatives on a Yorkshire farm during World War I. That's the setup for Tom Grattan's War, a series that ran from 1968 to 1970. It's got everything. Great stories, a warm cast, and Yorkshire looking absolutely stunning. 26 episodes, all in color, perfect for dark winter nights. One of the great British dramas. Upstairs, Downstairs dives into life inside a Belgravia townhouse, split between the wealthy family upstairs and the servants downstairs. The original run covered 1903 to 1930, with the fourth season set during World War I. On the surface, it had all the makings of a classic period soap, but it went deeper than that. It actually tracked how English society changed over those decades, from the Edwardian era, through the war, and into the Great Depression. A blacksmith-turned-fighter pilot takes to the skies in World War I. Wings ran for 25 episodes, following Second Lieutenant Alan Farmer, played by Tim Woodward, son of Edward Woodward. His journey takes him from the ground to the air, trained by his mentor, Captain Triggers, while dealing with personal betrayals and the brutal realities of war. The show didn't hold back on realism. Early flight was dangerous. These pilots had barely any defense, no parachutes, and no guarantees they'd make it back. The air battles were thrilling, but the war itself was ugly, both in the skies and in the trenches below.